everybody. I am back. Mike Brancatelli here, Psychedelic, but you know that. You know what you clicked on. Why even? I don't even need to do these intros anymore. I should just get right into it, right? What's the point? Well, maybe there's some new people. If there's new people, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining and checking out the show, right? There's always new people. But I am back, and the new people, you're probably wondering, what do you mean you're back? Where did you go? Well, I took a break from recording about a month ago. I made an announcement just saying I needed a break. I needed to just have some time off, and I dumped a bunch of episodes out at once, and then I just kind of chilled for a little while. And then some people were asking me, what's the deal with coronavirus? What do you think? Hey, we want to know what Mike Brancatelli's take is on this, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, really? I don't, but I gave it my best. I did some research. I have some opinions. I have some thoughts. I have some feelings, and I shared them. So I came back with an episode about the real virus, the virus of the mind, the virus of the media, the virus of fear, the virus of the crazy civilization that we've created that actually gives birth to these kinds of pandemics and these viruses, the kinds of things that happen in this world, the kinds of, the results, if you will, of the kind of world that we've constructed, but this is where we are. This is what's going on. And then really what I'm concerned about is the response and the actions being taken, and where's this going to go, and how long are we all going to be, living inside of our homes, forever and ever, what is going to happen here? So, well, it'll be interesting to play out, but I did love that I got to do this podcast and record with author Michelle Janikian, who wrote the book, Your Psilocybin Mushroom Companion. Such a pleasure to just take a break from the pandemic and the virus and all this crap and actually just talk mushrooms with Michelle. Such a pleasure, such a joy, such a great conversation. So easy, so familiar, great, really just a wonderful conversation. It was fun, it was funny, entertaining. You guys will see, you'll like it. Michelle's great. Fantastic, and I feel like I could have just kept talking to her. We'll have her on again. She's great. She's wonderful. So she wrote this book, and you should get it. Everybody should get it. If you're if you're interested in mushrooms, get the book. If you are experienced with mushrooms, still get the book. It's really kind of an all-encompassing psilocybin mushroom guidebook. It is an informative, easy-to-use guide to understanding magic mushrooms, okay? It sheds light on the benefits, the misconceptions of mushrooms, of psilocybin mushrooms, and the information that's in the book is really robust and rich. And yeah, if you are experienced with taking psilocybin mushrooms and you're like, I already know everything that's in this book, there's some great stories in there, and also you can get it and just put it on your bookshelf so that when people come to your house and you're having like a dinner party or you have friends over, then they look at your bookshelf and they're like, oh, what kind of person is this? Let me see what they have here. And they're like, oh, your Psilocybin Mushroom Companion. I wonder what this is. And oh, that's interesting. And you're like, oh yeah, you want to borrow it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then they borrow it, and then they months go by and you're like, where's my book? And they're like, oh yeah, I still haven't gotten to it yet. And you're like, okay, well, can you get to it then? Because I want my book back. And, but you don't really say it like that. You say it nice, like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah. Take your time, whatever. When you borrow a book, read the fucking book that you borrowed from the person that you borrowed it from. Nobody does that. People borrow books. They're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I want to borrow that book. And then they borrow it and they just, I don't know, use it as a coffee coaster. They just sit on it, like, and then months go by, and then and then months go by, and then you forget about it, and then it's their book now, and now they're lending it out to other people. People are coming over, and they're like, "Oh, that's an interesting book," and they're like, "Oh yeah, actually, yeah, kind of, and then they'll say things like, "Yeah, it was good. I skimmed through it." That's a way to like bullshit that you read something. You're like, yeah, I skimmed it. I got the gist. No, you didn't. You didn't do anything. You opened maybe the first page or the last page. You read the back cover, and now you're lending my book out that I lent you to someone else. Anyway, maybe you take them to small claims court. But anyway, the point is, it's a great book. It's a great book to have. It's a great informative book to give to people, to educate people. It's a great book to gift to people. It's a great looking book. It just looks great. So get it, put it on your bookshelf, read it, use it. Every mushroom person should have it. There. All right, Michelle, I want, 10% commission. That's pretty fair. We can do that. That was a good pitch. That was a good sales pitch. But no, I really mean it. Michelle's wonderful. This is a great conversation. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it real soon. I guess, I just want to say, after that announcement episode that I made where I said I was taking a break, I looked at the stats. It looks like I lost like 1,000 listeners. What the hell? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. Sorry that I'm a human being, that I needed like a little bit of time off. I'm not just this like content producing machine, but maybe I will be now with the pandemic. Now, I'm not going to be able to leave. I'm just going to be singing and dancing like, Jimmy Fallon in here every night doing a Psychedelic show. That guy really just annoys the hell out of me. I don't mind like Jimmy Kimmel. I don't really mind him. Jimmy Fallon is just like, you look at, I don't have TV or watch TV, but every so often I'll just kind of like pop in and see what some of these people are doing. And like, it's like, hey man, it's like, Jimmy Fallon here. Yeah, it's the coronavirus is it's pretty scary. Yeah, hey, looks like Corona stocks are down, but Dos Equis are up. Oh man, it's crazy, right? Oh wow, it's cool. Oh shit, Jimmy Fallon, making jokes about coronavirus because comedy, late night. You gotta. We're the kind of people that people turn to, in tough times. It's people like Jimmy Fallon, like me. Yeah. Oh man, wow, it's wild, it's crazy. Whoa. It's like they're just so lame. I don't know. Is there even an audience there? They just have like a laugh track, automatic laugh. Just Jimmy Fallon just standing up doing these. Oh wow, oh man, that's wild. Yeah, oh man, Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, I'm gonna have. Oh man, the coronavirus is pretty crazy, right? Oh man, it's a tough time right now. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to switch my beer. You know what I mean? Oh man, it's crazy. Wow, yeah. And there's just like no audience. It's just a laugh track. They just push a button. Oh man, oh yeah. My first guest tonight is Bernie Sanders. Oh man, yeah, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, he's a big fan of the show. He he always watches it when he wakes up in the middle of the night to take a pee. Oh man, because he's old. Oh man, it's crazy. Oh, Jimmy Fallon getting you through these tough times with comedians. He just seems so fake. Like, he is like, to be the whole like talk show thing is just weird. It's so weird. Oh, so tell me, what did you do, and how are you getting through these times? All right, we got to get to the commercial, but we'll be right back with we got Sam Smith in the house. He's gonna sing. We got Lady Gaga and Sam Smith and Ed Sheeran. Yeah, man, they've all come together to. We are the world, get through this coronavirus, that's what they're going to do. I'm waiting on that. There's going to be like a We Are the World, like pop stars all coming together to like sing like a coronavirus song, Oh man. Cringe. Anyway, please, I don't know. I just, I guess I'll do a little like groveling and begging right now. I really need your help. If you like this show, please help support it in any way that you can, especially right now. This is a pretty tough time. I'm not going to get into some, personal details, but some financial issues are going on for a lot of people. And, I'm going to be ramping up production, maybe doing a couple shows a week, maybe doing some YouTube live stream stuff. I'm back on social media as well, but I want to really get more awesome content going and more consistent And yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, if you like the show, I really, I need your help. I need your support. It's just me. I'm an independent individual content creator, if you will. So go to my website, mikebrank.com. You'll see a link to Patreon there. You'll also see a PayPal link if you want to make a one-time donation. You don't want to do the monthly thing. But if you do, you can also go to patreon.com/MikeBrank, BRANC, my website, mikebrank.com. If you don't have any fake paper Federal Reserve promise notes left, or you're tight with cash like I am, I get it. Don't worry about it. It's not, do what you can. If you like the show, if you like what I'm doing, if you like the guests, if you like the conversation, if you like the ranting, if you like the Psychedelic, I've been doing the show now for 4 years, almost 4 years, coming up on 4 years, for free, right? I mean, it's just, I think that, there's like services now like Luminary and all these kinds of things. Like I got Hemp Bombs, by the way, as a sponsor. So, I don't know, go use them, whatever. They were like one of the first ones to come. They're pretty good. Check them out. Maybe you'll like them. I don't know. They have some good stuff. I like the gummies, tincture. They have stuff for dogs. They have freeze cream. Go to hempbombs.com. You get 15% off when you put in the code Mike15. But yeah, maybe get some other sponsors that I really, really like. Really something that I use every day that I love, that kind of stuff. I mean, this is, it's a hard game here. We're all kind of figuring out as we go. I just know that I love doing this. I want to get better at it. I want to do it more. I want it to be bigger, grander. I had a lot of live events that were coming up. I was doing some storytelling events. I was doing some mind jams. Really fucking cool. Loving the mind jam. Can't wait for the corona to be gone so I can get out and do more mind jams in the live setting. I mean, it makes me feel almost like I'm back on stage doing stand up, and it combines like all the elements of dialogue and discourse and communication that I just love so much. And everybody seemed to really like them. It was such great experiences. I can't wait to bring those back. And I wanted to do more live podcasts. It's so crazy. Thank you, universe, for whatever your weird play that you're doing. But it's like, man, just when I was getting out of my social isolation, my hibernation, I was depressed and social distancing before I even knew what social distancing was. So, and now it's like the spring is coming. It's March. I feel like, oh wow, I'm like finally, I'm doing a lot of like live stuff and getting out there, and now the pandemic and got to stay indoors. So anyway, it's just my pitch, my spiel, my plea. Please help support me as best you can, as much as you can. I really appreciate every little action that you can take, whether it's just leaving a rating or a review, sharing it with some friends, telling some people about it, whatever you can do. If you can donate $1 on Patreon, I mean, if everyone that listened, if every single person that listened to this show went on to Patreon and donated $1, I would be in such a better position. I'd be a little bit more calm. I wouldn't have to really struggle so much and take these breaks and figure things out. And anyway, it's just, if you can, if you feel called to do it, if you feel like I'm annoying the shit out of you right now and you hate me and you're like, what is this shit? Can we get to the podcast? I'm sorry. I mean, this is what happens. This is what happens when you're just a guy with a microphone and you're not like, NPR or Gimlet Media or whatever. So, it's like a catch-22. How do you grow when you don't have the resources to grow? Well, I'm trying to get the resources so I can grow. And the show has grown, steadily over the years. But I feel, many people have written to me saying this show deserves to be big. And I believe that. I do believe that. I love doing this. And I love talking to people. I love having fun. I want to make it bigger, better, brighter. And I want to take Jimmy Fallon out. And I want to be the psychedelic talk show, Tonight Show during the pandemic. All right. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Let's get into this conversation. It's a wonderful conversation with my new best friend, Michelle Janikian, author of Your Psilocybin Mushroom Companion. Without further ado, here it is.
Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window, psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing. They open to us the possibility that everything we know is wrong.
We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison.
Cognitive liberty. The fact that as adults, if we're not hurting anybody else, we should have the right to explore the contours of our own consciousness without any mediation or legislation on the part of somebody else.
Reject authority. Authority is a lie.
Or is it perception?
Information is power, but we have to seize the opportunity. The opportunity.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, cool. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, because we're in Corona world now, so this is pretty much the only way that we're all going to interact with each other is through screens, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, we were supposed to be doing this live together, but here we are in our offices alone.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that we're getting a chance to do this because all the talk has been about this coronavirus. So I'd love to like shift gears and talk about something else.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm really gonna try really hard.
I have confidence. I have faith. Yeah, I think we're gonna do a really good job. So I know of you because you wrote a wonderful little book, maybe I could call it a guidebook. Is that right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah, your Psilocybin Mushroom Companion, an informative, easy-to-use guide to understanding magic mushrooms from tips and trips to microdosing and psychedelic therapy. I mean, that's just awesome. It's basically just like, here's everything that you need to know. So first off, it's wonderful. It really is everything that you need to know. Thank you for putting that together. And then I also know that you write for Playboy, DoubleBlind, and I was recently hanging out with Joe Moore. He said you did a little writing for them at Psychedelics today. So
yeah,
welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Psychedelic.
Awesome. Yeah. That's such a nice introduction. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So maybe you can fill me in a little bit more. I can get to know you a little bit more. The audience can get to know you a little bit more. How did this all come about for you? How did you get into writing and to being a journalist? Like where did this interest spark? And then second question about psychedelics, but I'll do one question at a time.
Yeah, well, I always wanted to be a writer. I didn't really know how that would work out. I always joke that I'd love to tell like my teenage self like what happens because I don't know. I was just always been really curious about psychedelics and things like cannabis, and so they really did come together. I honestly got my start writing about cannabis. So like 4 years ago or more, I got on the cannabis beat and I started doing some reporting about legalization and then more like health benefits. I'm really into like these explainer, sciencey type pieces that like explain how CBD can help arthritis and this kind of thing. And, I'd always been interested in other plant medicine, substances, entheogens, like whatever you want to call them. And so when opportunities started coming up, like, oh, do you want to write about ketamine infusions and all this stuff? It was like, absolutely. Like, yeah, this is totally cool. And so just kind of took the skills that I was developing as a writer in the cannabis space and applying them now. There's just more interest in other stuff. Like I just happened kind of to be at the right place at the right time, but I've always had a big passion for all these things. And my whole thing is like, I really want to destigmatize all these different substances. Cannabis was an easy place to start. And now like mushrooms is the next step. And it's really just another step. Like I love mushrooms and cannabis. They're like my homies, but there's a lot more work to do. And I'm really honored that I can help put these other messages out there, educate people on, different benefits, different uses, and now like safe use and all this kind of harm reduction info. It's fun. It's cool. I love it. And I love writing, and I'm really lucky I get to do it all as my job every day. It's great.
Yeah, it's very cool and very important too. I think oftentimes, I had this thought the other day about how sometimes you don't realize the world that you're in because it's kind of a little bit of a bubble, and how much other people don't know, and that the experience that I've had. And you tell a great story in the opening of your book, and I've been there, like doing things that we really shouldn't be doing, but thankfully we made it out of that, So was that the first psychedelic experience that you had was with mushrooms? Is that right?
Yeah, that summer I was like 17 and I had a lot of first experiences. Also, like around the same time, tried salvia for the first time, which is kind of crazy because it's a really intense plant medicine. But, that's just like 2004 or something. This was legal in New Jersey where I was at, way easier to get than like weed or alcohol. And we were just stupid teenagers, like experimenting with everything. It wasn't just substances. I was experimenting with relationships and like life and books and so many things. And psychedelics were a big part of that for me. But yeah, my first mushroom trip, I do write about it a little in the intro. I was an idiot. I had no idea. And that's why I wanted to write this book, so people don't have like really stupid first mushroom trips and then like never touch it again because they're like, oh, that was crazy and dangerous or like whatever. Like it can be really kind of not easy, but it doesn't have to be dangerous at all. It's actually like one of the safest things you can do to expand your consciousness, and just giving people all the tools they need so that they can do this on their own. They don't need anything except like a lot of free time, some mushrooms, and just like ways to ground and center themselves. If you can self-soothe naturally, then you can probably do mushrooms. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I just think that, it's like the education is so important, right? I mean, it's just like if you have education, if you just know, I mean, the DARE program and the scare tactic and that stuff that we grew up during and were exposed to really wasn't helpful, like at all. And then it left people like you and me and others to our own devices to experiment on our own. Some people, get away with it like we did, like luckily. And some people don't. They get hurt or they do something stupid or, they get in trouble or they get arrested or God forbid they die or something like that. And, so it's just so important. I mean, like the education piece is like, it's everything. So thank you for like, going there, doing that, coming back, and bringing something back to share with the community to enlighten people, if you will, on the cost benefit analysis of these things. I mean, I did so many stupid things. Like I oftentimes the way that I talk about cannabis and psychedelics now is completely different than when I was in high school. And what part of New Jersey did you grow up in, by the way?
I'm from North Jersey, Sussex County, Sparta,
Oh,
New
okay.
Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I grew up right on the border of Bergen County
Oh,
in New
wow.
York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we would go to we'd go over there sometimes. But yeah, it was just I was just shoving whatever I could get into my face and just doing, it wasn't this intentional, respectful thing. I didn't know anything about it, that was it. We thought, well, let's try not to do too much ecstasy and LSD because I don't want to put too many holes in my brain.
Yeah.
But
And if you crack your neck, like then
Yeah.
you start tripping again, or like all this weird stuff that I still have to like force myself out of these old urban legends and like try to reteach people, or like it's crazy. Yeah, the ice cream scoops of your brain, right? That was MDMA. It takes ice cream scoops out of your brain. Yeah, that's not true, kids.
No, not at all. Like, then the other one was someone told me if you've taken LSD more than 7 times, you're considered legally insane.
Like at like 19, I was like, yeah, finally legally insane. No, I think back then too, like, when you're a kid, everything is so new and like mind expanding. I think I was like looking for answers in the wrong place in a way. Like I think that there can be some kind of like there is definitely safe psychedelic use for maybe older teens or something. I don't know. Maybe I won't get too deep into it, not to be too controversial, but maybe some kind of initiation ceremonies when you graduate high school or something. You know, there could be some really powerful ways for like adults to introduce psychedelics to teens in like a safe ceremonial way. But back then I was kind of like, I mean, I was not just reckless, but I was also like looking for like what my life would be like with freedom, right? Because I was like stuck at home. You needed a car to drive everywhere in New Jersey. And I was just like so bored. And everything was like what the adults in my life wanted. And so, like, I think in psychedelics, I was like looking for like what was freedom. And I think that was like the wrong place to look, but I
Mm,
definitely found something. uh,
yeah.
but now I
Yeah.
just want to
What do you think? What do you think you found?
I mean, I found a whole culture, right? Like, I got really into like all the literature, the beats, and like, I've been rereading the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test because that book was like so important to me when I was like 18, 19 years old. And it's funny because like all this stuff that I'm like into again now, I was introduced to back then. And it's just I've kind of been like revisiting a lot of that because then in the course of like the 12 years that have spanned since then, like I did take a big break from psychedelics um but not from the culture really. It's I don't know, but just trying to like it's just so interesting. These things that I think so many teens, like whether or not they're using substances, like these kinds of books, like and this kind of culture, it's like punk and indie music and reading on the road and all this stuff. And now I like meet all these adults, you know, we're like in our 30s and 40s, and we were all like that same kind of teen. And now we're all like in the psychedelic cannabis movement. And it's just really interesting. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
No, yeah, no, it's. I'm really glad that you brought this up because it really is about the culture and like the ethos and the values, the morals, like the kind of respect that's just sort of there among people who kind of get it and are on the same page, you know, and that's really really important to me. Like you brought up responsible, safe use among maybe younger teen people. And I believe that we really need that to usher in responsible, wise adults, you know, who aren't just like, you know, big babies running around. You know, what are the rites of passage that we have now? You turn 21, you could have a beer. I mean, kids are already abusing alcohol at a, you know, like, I mean, like, that was my experience. You know, I was 16 years old and I was trying to drink 12 beers when I went out to parties and, you know, threw a couple in the woods and lied to my friends so I could be cool. You know, like just this resistance or this pressure of like conformity. Children need to be controlled and you're not allowed to do certain things until you get to certain ages. It's dumb. You know, if I was to say, it's very dumb. It's dumb. It doesn't show wisdom, you know, because I think that everyone's different, right? Like even grouping kids together by age, like some kids are more mature than other kids. And so it's, I believe that that's a big thing. You know, if we can get like ritual ceremony and like initiation, rites of passage, we could really make a lot of changes. And you know, with psychedelics, that's a big initiation, a proper psychedelic ceremony, and you know that you can face, you know, your fears and your mortality and whatever it is. That you don't get that with beer, you know, you don't get that with alcohol, but that's what we currently have in our world. So thank you for going there so I could go there. And now I'm excited to see where you go with that.
right? Like, I think that's an interesting thing about mortality because what is it that like young people don't understand when they're being so reckless and they're binge drinking and they're drunk driving or high driving or whatever? It's that like you have no concept of your own mortality. I didn't. I still am learning and I'm like 31, but it's like, I think that could really help. And like also binge drinking, like, if you're a teenager, throwing beers in the woods to show off to your friends that you can like drink 12 before you even go out, something I can totally relate to. I used to get like so drunk before I would go out at like midnight. It's like crazy.
Pre-game, yeah.
I'm like asleep at like 10 now. But like, I think that you have like no concept of your own mortality. And like, I don't know, could psychedelics teach teenagers that? Maybe. I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's a lesson I learned, and then I had to like hang up the phone for a few years. But maybe
you hung up. You go ahead.
I just think maybe that was a valuable lesson, even though it was a hard one.
So what led to the hanging up of the phone, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I went in a little too often when I was younger. Like I was doing LSD like every weekend for like the summer before I went to college, and that wasn't safe use either. I really enjoyed that space. I felt like really like myself there, and it was really cool and empowering. But I kind of lost track of how to do the real world too, and had to, just take some time and space. It didn't mean I couldn't touch it ever again. I just needed to get on a track that I could do both.
Well, that's great awareness to have when you were in college or before you were going to college, you said?
I was in college. I mean, thanks, but I like supplemented with other stuff. So don't like compliment me yet, but I appreciate that. But
all right.
it took a long time. I'm only now, or in the past like 5 years, like, really learning like how you can be a really responsible drug user. Like I can use substances sometimes, plant medicines, whatever, and they're not all plants. And I can still go to work and get all my stuff done and pay my taxes and love my parents and and I think that's the new dare that we need. It's just so hard to tell people that because some people's lines are so much harder to draw with like addiction issues and overuse and it's something that I want to address more in my work is like, how do we teach people to just like draw their own lines, and how do we teach safe use? Because it is going to be different for everyone. It can be triggering for some people when you start talking about it, and then I feel bad. And because not everyone's like me, like not everyone or is like this like I don't think I have like addiction stuff. So like I can do this. It's like, okay. I was just writing an article on, it's not out yet, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but people who use psychedelics who are like in active addiction recovery, because it's like a really tricky line to navigate, but people are learning. And I think that we need to teach these same skills that we're teaching the people with more intense addiction issues to everyone, because if we can all learn to like modify ourselves or like, what's the word, not go overboard, use it in moderation. Yeah. That's where I'm going. I mean, not the world, but just this whole thing could be just easier to explain to people. And that's when de-stigmatization and legalization and decriminalization, all those things can happen once we have this education on how do we do this well. It's tricky.
Yes.
It's a really tricky place. I'm always like in between a rock and a hard place when I'm trying to explain to people what I do, because it's like not everyone gets it, but the people who do, like you guys and all these like amazing podcasts and the magazines I've been working for and trying to get this information out there, it's such an exciting time, and I hope it just keeps moving forward. And we're shifting the culture, I feel like, a lot already in the past 5 years, so I'm excited to be part of it for sure.
Yeah, and I'm excited that there's like level-headed, reasonable people out there that can get a message to people who might not be in or hip to psychedelics or cannabis or anything like that, So like Michael Pollan with his book, like that came out, right? And I think your guide is like really good too, because it's like it's approachable. You can say to somebody like, hey, I know you were asking me about this, like maybe check this out, and maybe they'll say no or whatever, but it's at least it's approachable, it's palatable, it's digestible, it's not. And I got no problem with like woo woo and crazy. I love talking about that kind of stuff. It's fascinating to me. I'll get into a trip report about how I talked to, this ancient entity at the end of time and was showing me the Akashic record like that. That's cool. But certain people just aren't, obviously they're not ready for that yet. So that's why we have like the mainstream kind of, the Rick Doblin with the suit on and, the PTSD studies. And that's all really, really, really good stuff. And so I just think that it's the, communicating to people in this language, and that's what's actually helping advance things a little bit. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think that it's also like some people just aren't going to get it because, like you said, they're going to get triggered because it's going to bring something up in them that's really, it creates a lot of intense emotions. Someone that they knew maybe died of a drug overdose, or someone, they look at their town and they see this heroin epidemic problem or opioid, which is serious, which is real. And that stirs up a lot of emotions in people, and they become resistant to any idea of drugs or any idea of, I don't care if it's plant medicine or not, rigid, and then some of those people are lawmakers, unfortunately. So.
It's true. And I think growing up in New Jersey, like we get that, like, I'm always getting texts and stuff. Not always, but recently, like, another person I went to high school died. Another, like, I just keep getting like, and I think that when my high school, classmates see what I'm doing with my life, they're like, oh, Michelle's promoting everyone to do drugs, and drugs are like killing us all. And it's like, no, I'm trying to show you that there's like other ways. We don't have to, not only like other ways to use substances, but like other ways to deal with your emotions. Like heroin numbs your pain. If your pain's really bad, like that might be what you need for a moment. But like, have you tried, releasing to that pain or some of this more psychonautic stuff? Like, have you tried like taking a mushroom or an MDA journey just at home with like a trip sitter and like just seeing where that pain takes you instead of like trying to numb it all the time? Or I don't know. It's like, but how are you going to tell someone that, who keeps losing people to incarceration or to drug overdoses? But I don't know. There's definitely people are also at the same time really open to it. So it's like this weird, sometimes I think people are going to be totally like resistant and they're so open to it. So you just got to keep having those conversations, I guess. Keep recommending my book to people. That's the way to go.
No, yeah, definitely, 100%. I will, because I meet a lot of people when I go to psychedelic events. Oftentimes, the people that come up to me after the event or whatever, it's older people, and they're like, "Yeah, I heard about this, and I've never done any drugs before, but I read Michael Pollan's book, and I found it interesting, and I've been suffering from depression, or my wife or my son or my nephew or whatever," and they have these stories and. Just the more resources that we have that we could say, oh, okay, yeah, you're interested in mushrooms. Like, take a look at this. Like, there's everything that you need to know. It's going to be in here. Take a look at it, and then just talking to people about it, like openly and honestly, and really, at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff when we're talking about the fear, the triggering, the emotional response to the drugs, it's been so laid upon us with the drug war and the news media and the government and just this hardcore conditioning that people have. So it's this like automatic response, drugs bad, but really there's just a lot of people in pain, it's like a lot of people are suffering and they're in pain and they're just looking for something. So obviously, right. Like, it's like, hey, alcohol and prescription pills, those are the good ones. Tobacco, that kind of stuff. These are the good ones. These are sort of, kind of still dangerous. We still don't know a lot about them. I mean, shit, even Michael Pollan, like when he came out, his book's been great. Everything's been great that he's been doing. But after the initiative passed in Denver, he came out, he wrote this article like, whoa, slow down, not too fast here. And I'm just like, hey man, come on. Like, what does someone have like, did the CIA like put a gun to your head or something and say, hey, Pollan, don't talk too much now, to slow your roll. But I understand he's in a position of great power and authority, so that he has to kind of keep things a little tame, I suppose. But really what we need is proper, truthful, honest, non-biased education, right?
I hope. Yeah, I know that was such a disappointing op-ed that he wrote. And I always like, you know, because he was so open about his own experiences in the book, it was like, why is it okay for you to have them and not everyone else? So that's kind of like a big part of my journey in my book, is really trying to just give people the agency to like make their own decisions and do this all on their own. Because I also like can get a bit annoyed by all the stories that are like, oh, mushrooms can cure all your problems. I've heard you talk about this on the podcast with other people. And it's like so silly. It's like, that's not what we're saying either. But I think, I'm part of the media, and part of the problem is that we get assignments as reporters to like write these feature stories, and it's like psilocybin for addiction, like find a source that's like a great example of someone cured, talk to a doctor, da da da. And we do this thing, we write these stories, and they're good for the movement in a way, but I think that they confuse the readers that like this stuff is a one-time fix, cure-all, easy peasy, like whatever. And I really tried in the book and in my writing to like highlight both sides of the experience. Like it can be really positive. I have really positive mushroom trips sometimes, and they're beautiful and they give me strength. And it can be harder, and it can be like yeah, mushrooms can help treatment resistant depression, but sometimes if I take a low dose, if I'm feeling really depressed, like it can kind of like amplify my suicidal ideation instead of like transcend it. And it's really dark and hard, and it's still like valuable. I can see stuff, but man, do I cry like so many tissues and just like I don't know. So I just try to tell more types of stories with this stuff, because the positive stories are great, and that's maybe how we'll change the culture. But I think as the culture is changing and more people are trying mushrooms or other types of psychedelics, like, and even just cannabis, like we have to keep the door open to like all the stories, because I think that, psychedelics are really can be hard, and they can be fun, but they can be just, I don't know, they're weird. They're hard to navigate. They're confusing. And so I just try to make that clear in the book and in other articles that like, don't feel bad about yourself if like your PTSD isn't cured from a mushroom trip, or like whatever it is, like, or if you're having these challenging experiences or you haven't totally changed your mind, like it's okay. Like just not even like stick through it, just like be true to you, what feels right. If like continuing on this path doesn't feel right, you don't have to. And also like, you know, that's not how it works. Like it's actually like a lot more subtle. It's a lot more like thinking thinking about yourself and the things you want to change when you're not on the medicine, and like how do you make these little day-to-day changes. I tried to explain that in my chapter on integration, and it was a big responsibility to write the whole book, because it was actually a lot of, it was really, last year was a really tough year for me, because I just kept getting so afraid that people would get the wrong message, and like, or I keep hearing all these new stereotypes where it's like, if I just take 8 grams of mushrooms, everything's going to be fine. And I wanted to be like, slow down, don't start there. Like you could take 8 grams of mushrooms one day, but I think if you're just getting started, let's see what 2 grams feels like. Let's just like, and really just trying to teach people to take this slow. This is like a lifelong journey. This is not a quick fix. It's hard to tell a culture that is so used to just going to the doctor and getting a prescription or going to the liquor store, and that's going to change things. And it might for a night or a few months. I don't know. It's a hard thing, but I just want people to be safe and do what feels right. And that's what the book's for.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, Michelle. I mean, no, you're so right. I mean, so many good things that you said, like, yeah, like, I think I even saw an article in Rolling Stone a few years ago, like the miracle mushroom cure, like psychedelics, the new miracle drugs, like, and even the other day I'll see people in the psychedelic space that have like publications and websites and stuff talking about how mushrooms are going to replace all pharmaceuticals and things are going to, like
I know
all
what you're
this.
talking about. Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get
Well, I'll call him out, Paul Austin on the Third Wave. Like I mean I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says, and I'll have him on the podcast and we'll debate. We could talk. I like him. We've hung out. We've met. I think he's a good guy, but I disagree with his like approach and with his the things that he's saying and stuff like that. So, but anyway, but
sorry about that.
no, it's all good. I don't care. The world's ending. It doesn't matter. But him and so I really respect people with more, because I fell into this. This happened to me. I fell into psychedelic zealot. Like I was a zealot. Like I was evangelizing. I was like, everybody has to do this. This is going to change the world for like a long time, and I realized that I was just falling into the trap of putting these things on a pedestal and worshiping them like some new god that's going to make everything okay, because that is what we want. Like you explained this as how it's so hard to penetrate the minds of people in a culture that have been conditioned to accept a magical pill, a solution. The idea that there's a good guy and there's a bad guy, and we're going to get the bad guys, and we're going to, this is the new thing. This is the new cure. This is the new diet. Just drink celery juice and microdose and everything's going to be okay. We're going to have drones. They're going to deliver food to our mouths right at our desks. We don't have to, everything's going to be efficient. We're heading to this new future world where everything's going to be perfect, right? But as you mentioned, psychedelics, when you are embarking on a psychedelic journey, if you're ready to enter into this world, it's almost like you have to make a contract with like a covenant with the universe, the multiverse, whatever, to say, I am ready to step into a larger world, and I'm ready to take on the responsibility that comes with that. And that is one of the hardest messages to get across to people that are used to quick fixes, right? I mean, because this is psychedelics. I know lots of people that, are psychedelic people, I guess. I mean, I go to tons of shows. There's a great music scene in Denver. People are banging Deemsters in the front row, just getting high on DMT, and they're not healing necessarily. They're just partying and having fun. And I was doing that. You were doing that, right? So it's like, I took acid and like went to the mall and like stole things from Brookstone. Like what. That doesn't sound like these are just tools that can be used in a number of different ways. So that's, I think, a lot of the things that people have to understand is so complex. These are so complex, and there's so many sides to them, and it's what we bring to it, right? And what we are trying to get from it, and we got to do the work that comes with it.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that I like that contract idea. I think that if my book keeps selling and we can print it again, I should put a contract as the first page. And like you have to sign like a contract with yourself on like, I am making a commitment in the next 2 years. I'm just gonna like do this inner journey work no matter how hard it is. And like it can be fun when you're actually on mushrooms, and that's okay. It doesn't always have to be hard. I think the harder days are the days after, right? Sometimes the day after is like a beautiful afterglow. But if I had a really challenging trip, my afterglow is more just like pain. Like, it's like raw. I think I describe it in the book as having like a foot in both worlds. You can kind of feel like that raw openness of your emotions, and then you're like kind of back in the real world, and you're like, I don't even know. And I had a little section in the book too on like what's a normal post psychedelic experience, because I think there were all these articles like a year ago that was like when a lot of the brain scans came out. I think Vice had an article that was like a week after your mushroom trip, your brain is still like making all these connections and you're like a superhuman and all this like crap. And it's like, maybe some people feel really good for that week, but some people feel really mixed up, I think. And that's not getting talked about enough. Like, it can be really confusing. You can have like what if you do like when you have these big realizations, like that you're lying to yourself or that you're not happy, like so hard to figure out afterwards. And I think that like the integration movement's doing a good job of giving people space to figure that out if they do have really big downloads and they're like, what do I do with this information? Like, it can be depressing. I can want to like I could just want to quit it all. Like, I get sometimes I joke that I'm in the tune out phase of the saying, like I just kind of want to, or like I kind of want to drop out sometimes. Like, it can be a lot of pressure being to like a voice of this movement, even though I'm not a very like big one, but like it can just feel like so much. And when sometimes the lessons I get are just like, just chill. It's like, well, maybe the answer is just no. But after, like, not to talk too much about the virus, but like last week when everything really kicked off and I had to cancel my book tour, like it was a really big bummer. It's postponed if anyone was trying to come to an event. We'll reschedule in the future, but it felt like so personal and like that the universe was like, no, you can't teach communities how to use mushrooms. It's too dangerous. And even though I know it's not, and it's so much bigger than me, it was like just so hard to deal with the disappointment. I'm like only getting back to work today. It's Monday. That was last Wednesday. I've been like raging. I've just been so upset the past 4 days. I almost canceled this. I'm really glad I didn't. I'm having a really good time. But like, I think now more than ever, what I wanted to say is that it's the most important time right now to remember the lessons that you learned. Like I've been learning a lot about how I self-isolate anyway, like regardless of this virus. I'm really introverted and I like to stay home and smoke weed and just like think and read. And that's great, but like I got to get out there. And like I realized that I had to like come to Denver and do that event like while I was pretty deep in the medicine in January. And I got this text from Travis and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I was so excited. And I was like, oh, I'm getting this big lesson that I have to, be more connected to people in the community. And I need to go see my people, which are in America. Like, I'm not in America right now. I don't live there anymore. And I really wanted to come back and see you all and talk to you. And what I'm seeing now is like that lesson's still there. Like, we have to stay connected. Connection is everything and love is everything. And this is going to be a really trying time for all of us. I think it's just starting, not to make anyone nervous, but I think it's going to get more isolating in the next few weeks, and to just stick together and remember those really blissful lessons that you learned. They're going to give you strength this time, because it's really hard and disappointing, and but those things aren't going away. It's not the end of the world. It's just a really weird time, and we still have each other though, even if we have to stay like 4 feet apart.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel you there. I really do. A lot of what you said, I resonate with a lot. I've experienced chronic depression, and I tend to isolate, and and sometimes I think about the podcast and what I'm doing, and is it like, does it matter? Are people listening? Like, am I reaching new people? Like, is this spreading? Like, the things that I care about the most are the total ordinary humanness of everyone. Just the fact that we're all the same. We really are. We're all going through the same things, and they're varying in scale and differences of how much things are affecting us in our personal lives. But we all have these doubts, and we all have these worries, and we all have these fears, and we all want to just stay home sometimes and not socialize with. We all feel these things. It's completely normal, like part of the human experience. but I have a tendency to think that it's like I'm the only one and I'm weird and there's something wrong with me and I can't handle it. It's too much. And I've tried so much and people still aren't getting it. I'm quit. I'm out, like it's the despair, the loneliness, that sort of thing. But really, I think that the most important thing and most important lesson that I've learned is like pushing myself to go out. And when I go out and I get in community, or when I have a good podcast and connect with someone, like I feel like, okay, like, yeah, this is why we're doing it. Like, this is what it's all about. We're here. And just the little simple ways that we can support each other. It might not be just a call, a text, a hello, how you doing? That sort of thing, because it's so, so important. I mean, I remember being, I lived for half of 2018. I was at the Temple of the Way of Light in Peru, an ayahuasca center. And I was working there and volunteering, working, and we would have these, big ceremonies, and just the next day, just sitting around with people and kind of, sharing, we'd have a little integration circle, kind of share our experiences and the things that would come out of that. You just feel this energy, this like connection of just like, it's going to be okay. Like we're all here. We're all here for each other. And so we don't even have to really do that. We think maybe we have to do something so incredible. And sometimes it's just listening to someone or just like smiling at someone, Yeah, super important.
Yeah. No, that's really cool that you volunteered at the Temple of the Way of Light. I'd love to hear more about that maybe at a different time, but
Sure. Yeah.
Volunteering at psychedelic retreats is, you really get to, I think that like retreats get, I don't know, all this weird kind of press right now, and we can talk about that. But I have a little experience in the mushroom retreat world here in Mexico. And man, one lesson that I keep getting and totally like trying to learn and just keep getting it over and over is like, yeah, I'm not the only one, right? Like I'm not the most damaged one in the room. I think when you have depression and anxiety, like I can kind of like walk into a room with a dark cloud over my head, just like expecting no one to understand me, and I'm so different and difficult. And I think a cool thing about psychedelics is that you can see like that the people you're with, like, oh man, we are all the same, or they have this whole like dark inner world too that you just don't see all the time because we're all just presenting our best selves on Instagram and all this stuff. And I think the retreat world is cool because you can really like people just really let their guard down. They just are like dedicated. Like this is the week that I'm just like present and myself, and I talk about all my pain to these strangers, and it's just going to be okay. And I can kind of, and you create the container for that, and it's kind of magical and weird and beautiful. And I kind of miss that space right now. Some of my friends, some of the women I volunteered at their retreat, they're all stuck at synthesis right now because you can't fly from Europe back to the US. And I keep thinking about them all there in that medicine space right now and just how crazy powerful it must be. It's like a women's only retreat too. But
Wow.
Yeah, I just wish that everyone could learn that lesson. I think that we're such a culture of comparing ourselves to each other. And especially like if you have depression, you're never leveling up to everyone around you. Like you see everyone's successes and you're just like, oh, I'll never be there. And you just like, oh, you just keep comparing yourself in a negative way. And I think a cool thing psychedelics can teach you is like that, we're all basically the same, and that you can compare yourself to another person in so much as that you realize that we're actually have the same human experience, and that, but you don't have to keep trying to one up the other person. I think that's like a really unhealthy, it's like the way we're raised as kids or something. I don't know. It's like it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
All these lessons, we just got to keep remembering them this week.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it's tough. It's gonna be tough for everybody, It's yeah, and maybe there's a big lesson in this experience that's happening right now for the world. I mean, one of the thoughts that I had about the coronavirus is how quick the governments and everyone were to mobilize to this. And rightly so, right? I guess it's just, it's a virus, it's spreading. But what about like world hunger? Like, why can't we just mobilize to that? It's not, doesn't seem as important, or homelessness, or the climate, or the loss of biodiversity, cutting down the rain. Where's the collective mobilization, panic, worry? Hold the phone, guys. Holy shit. Do you realize that we're killing the planet? Oh my God. Do you realize how many people are starving and homeless on the street? Where's the mobilization? Where's that, coming from? So I think it's very interesting when there's this, kind of particular kind of scenario that requires big government mobilization. You could talk about it with like terrorism, with a flu, with the coronavirus, with this thing. But it's just interesting to see as a civilization, really, like where our values lie and what we're willing to get up in arms about, and what we are willing to just like kind of be like normal and let slide, but maybe this will be a learning lesson. I don't know.
It must be. It's super weird. It feels like a really weird, surreal time. Like, it kind of feels like almost lucky that now I have all this free time to stay home and maybe write some kind of like dystopian apocalyptic novel or something.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. Like, the only thing I can compare it to really is like, being a teen outside of New York City during 9/11. It kind of feels like that same sort of weird craziness.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. I just hope that isolating people seems like it's like, necessary. But man, I just hope that we don't like go collectively insane, because it's just like, what else can happen when all these people are by themselves and stressed out? It's just kind of scary. But I hope everyone just keep listening to media like podcasts and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird time.
It's a good time for a safe psychedelic journeying, maybe too. You're at home. There's not a lot to do. You just maybe get your Psilocybin Mushroom Companion and
right.
Learn how to have a safe journey for yourself. Yeah, good time maybe to start going inwards and healing. Maybe we could take advantage of that.
Definitely. I know. Yeah. It's like, feels really guilty promoting my book during this time, but it's also available on ebook if you're afraid to order from Amazon.
Perfect time. What else are you going to do? Listen to the podcast, read the book. Like, this is the time for digital media people to be thriving. Yeah.
I keep thinking like I got to get that spore syringe out of my underwear drawer and finally inoculate those jars, because it's a good time to also start germinating some marijuana seeds. It's a good time to start your spring planting. What else could we all be doing? I don't know. Take up a new hobby. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, if you have a home with a yard, maybe look into gardening. Maybe it's a good time to start producing and growing your own food, right? I mean, with the panic of people getting all crazy and raiding the supermarkets, like grow some tomatoes and carrots and plant an apple tree. I mean, how I don't know how long that's going to take to grow, but maybe your grandkids will have access to it.
No,
but
definitely.
Empowering, just like this self-empowerment, I think it's a good lesson to start, yeah.
And mushrooms are always trying to teach us that, right? I mean, I feel like every time I go in, they're always like, silly girl, what are you coming to me for? It's all inside. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. I just needed you to remind me I missed you. Hi, how you doing? But it's true. Like, everything we need, we already have. And I mean, in a way, maybe not physically. I mean, we have the capability to learn, I guess. It's a weird time. But yeah, I know. Self-journeying at home. But do you kind of like get a little worried that it might be a bad time to trip because there's just so much stress and paranoia going on in the world? Like, I kind of feel like I might dwell on that and kind of not bug out, but just, I don't know. I feel like I'm actually personally a little reluctant to go into like a full dose right now, because I feel like I might just get a little too paranoid about the state of the world. I don't know.
Yeah. I
That's
think
just
you got,
me.
yeah, I think you got your answer right there. Yeah. I mean, that's literally, I always help because people will ask me all the time and I just say like, you really have to, this isn't about, you know, oh, I have to trip now because it's the timing or my wife's out of town. So this is the only time I got. It's like, you know, none of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters is are you mentally prepared? Is your set and setting good? Because if it's not, it doesn't matter, you know. And I do not like to go into trips when I'm not feeling it. I have to be totally called to it and aligned to it. You know, it's not going to work any other way. You know, it's going to be not the most optimal experience. And I want the optimal experience. I want to get the most that I can out of it. You know.
Yeah, it was a tricky thing to write about in the book because I did try to just touch on it a little, just like that there are bad times to trip and how do you figure that out? And, you know, part of my research was not just like my own experience, but I interviewed like 15, 20 people who just like use mushrooms occasionally, regularly, whatever, to just like get a feel of what the rest of the community also does. Cause, you know, it can feel like, oh, everyone does what I do. But then you talk to other people and you're like, oh, actually, but no, mushroom people are actually pretty similar. No. But one of the things I learned was like, yeah, there's definitely there are times when you feel too stressed out. I think some of the examples I put in the book were like maybe if a close family member was just diagnosed with a serious illness or there was death in the family. Sometimes these things, you know, sometimes for some people, that'll be a good time to go in. Maybe you have trouble grieving and that like helps you release. Like I cry all the time, so I don't need the mushrooms to help, but like some people, you know, that might feel really right. And like there's nothing wrong with that either. But for me, I'm a little more cautious sometimes. And sometimes I just feel too overwhelmed and stressed out by the real world that's the wrong word, but just like what's going on in my world to like start exploring deeper inner journey work. It's like, it's just not the right time. I don't have the time and space to dedicate to that. And so
Yeah.
I just, recommend people, right? Always check in with yourself, see what feels good, how you feel, if it feels right, if you feel safe and comfortable. And if you do during this time and it's going to help you feel connected to the rest of the planet, like go for it. But yeah, if you're feeling like your stress level's a little too high right now, that's okay. Don't push yourself either. I think that's totally fine. And there's other
Yeah,
things to do.
very good advice. I think don't push yourself is good advice because even if people are in a position where they're really embarking on a psychedelic healing journey, they might feel the need to like, no, I need to heal. Like I feel like I've went through something like this. I think there's this author, Carolyn Meese, who calls it woundology. It's like sort of like you're getting like addicted to the process of continually needing to improve and to heal and to dig and to go deeper and, you know, that whole thing. And it can get kind of heavy and you can push yourself a little bit further than you might need. And like you said before, sometimes you could even actually trigger some, you know, anxiety or suicidal ideation. Like it could actually accelerate that or accentuate that. Right. And that's something that needs to be known too. So it's all about sort of, you know, I was like, well, I guess I'm kind of due for a big dose, you know. It's been a couple months. I think it's about time. It's about that time. So I went and I was holding this bag in my hands of these beautiful mushrooms, and I'm like looking at them, and I'm just like, and I had this moment, and it just kind of this thing was like communicated to me, like, no, you still got a lot of homework to do. Like you're not ready for the next exam. Like you didn't do all the stuff yet. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I didn't. You know, so
Interesting.
the time, you know, there's a lot of, yeah, it is. Yeah.
No, that's so funny. I mean, the mushrooms, like they're gonna they're gonna tell you, right, if it's the right or wrong time. You just gotta listen. I think it can be hard. It's a really interesting term, woundology. I hadn't heard of it, and now I'm like, oh, I gotta go look that up because
Yeah.
it's one of the problems I have with like the current state of psychedelics because it's like it's like always using it to optimize your life. Like it's this whole like wellness culture that's now just like being applied to psychedelics. And I can kind of hate that because it's like, I kind of feel like that misses the mark a little. Like, yeah, they can be a tool to like improving yourself, and that's totally legitimate. But like, if it's constantly this like competition with yourself to like be the best version at all times, like, there's no room for failure. And I think one of my big lessons is like, I'm always learning that like I'm too hard on myself. I'm too much of a like I don't even think I'm a perfectionist, but the mushrooms are like, girl, you gotta slow down. Like it's gonna be okay. Things are gonna get done. Like it's fine. And so I think like yeah, you can use mushrooms to be happier or be nicer or like whatever you want. But it doesn't always have to, like, psychedelics don't always have to be about optimizing your life. Like, that's tiring. That's exhausting way to live. Like, just make it about being like just present and nice to people and not reacting really fast and stressed out. And I don't know. But I mean, do whatever you want also, like always. Do whatever feels right. But I can get a little caught. Like right now, that's really heavy. This whole like with the Goop Lab and there's a new wellness psychedelic summit that's probably going to be canceled in May. And it's all like, how do we?
Oh, is that the meat delic one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it looks cool, but it is like a wellness summit specifically, and like that's important and cool, but I just get a little bit afraid that with all the interest in psychedelics right now, like we're missing the culture. Like wellness is great, but like wellness isn't everything. Like you don't have to drink lime juice and cayenne pepper and hike every day or like whatever. Like you can be lazy sometimes. You can like eat processed food too. Or like, like you can like drink beer. Oh my God, alcohol is like not great, but like sometimes it's okay. Like all these little things. And I get a lot
Yeah.
of shit for that. But like, you know what? Like
No, you shouldn't. Why are you getting the people that are giving you shit for that are the people that aren't as woke as us, Michelle. They're not, they haven't decreased their ego as much as we have. Where our egos are so much smaller than theirs. No, but yeah, it's like, at the end of the day, we're all people. Like no matter what space you're in, if you're Buddhist and you're into the Vipassana meditation space, or if you're in the ayahuasca space or the mushroom space, there's always going to be the same things that human beings are going to be doing in those arenas. And, because we live in the kind of culture that we do that commodifies and commercializes and capitalizes on every single little trend and exploits it to its fullest degree and writes clickbait articles to get people's attention. And then people don't even read the article. They just read the headline, and then you're at a party and they're like, oh, did you hear this fantastic fungi? It's the cure for depression. And they don't even know what they're talking about. And they're just, reciting buzzwords that they heard, when they're scrolling on Twitter. I mean, this is the kind of culture that we have created, right? And it's this culture, I think, that has been created this way because we have severed our connection to the sort of the sacred, the ritual, the ceremony, the wisdom, the appreciation for the mystery, for the slowness of life, for the subtlety, and that's not something that you can easily sell to people in a sexy way. Hey, go and take a walk in the park without your headphones on and listen to the birds. Look at the way that the wind blows the trees, Say hello to somebody and look them in the eyes when you walk past them, Wish someone to have, these are what, it's just, there's certain people that are going to get it and certain people that are going to try and sell you $1,000 wellness summit package to change your life, to optimize, download my new app, sign up for my course, be the best, fly to the moon, go to my space resort, take my space drugs, whatever's coming,
I mean, I'll go to space though. Like
Yeah, me too. I will too. Yeah. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
actually a mushroom retreat in space. Like can you imagine like
Yeah.
zero gravity on mushrooms?
Oh my
No,
God. Someone's going to do that. Someone's going to do that. That's $1 million idea. Some Silicon Valley nerd listening to this show right now is going to start inventing that. I guarantee it.
Well, I mean, press trip, please, please send me. I want to go. No,
Yeah, me
like
too.
the ultimate isolation. We'll just all move to space. We won't get sick there, right? I don't even know. No, it's a weird thing to both like integrate this like optimized wellness culture and to kind of fight against like psychedelics are not like they can be about that and they always sort of have been, right? Like I mean even healing ceremonies in other cultures are about healing, right? But
Yeah,
like
the medicine. Yeah.
optimizing is different. It's more like a supplement.
And so you're in Oaxaca, right? Is that where you live near Oaxaca?
Yeah, I actually live in Chiapas. It's the state south of
Oh,
Oaxaca.
oh,
So
Chiapas. Okay, yeah. Places that I've wanted to go and haven't been. And I know a lot of people actually from my time at the temple who work there, permanently for years, and then they kind of like when they have a break, they go to Chiapas, they go to Oaxaca, they go to places in Mexico. And I've always
interesting.
wanted to go. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's really affordable here. It's like really beautiful. The weather's really nice. And it's just really naturally kind of spiritual. Like it's not like in Chiapas, there's no like indigenous mushroom ceremonial use that I know of. Like that's a Oaxacan thing, but there's just like a lot of you can just kind of feel the magic here. And like the indigenous communities here, they have their own ceremonies that are like so beautiful that you can go watch in Chamula. There's a big church there that's like it's just so different than anything I experienced growing up. And it's a beautiful, like, yeah, it's a beautiful place. I can see that, like, that makes perfect sense to me. And there's just like a lot of sort of spiritual hippie types also around here. But I fit
Yeah,
in well,
nice.
so it's fine.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'd love to come down at some point. I definitely have an interest. So, have you participated in any ceremonial activities, traditional, indigenous? I mean, because this is, I believe is it Oaxaca that is like the home of Maria Sabina and where yeah. And so, have you kind of investigated that area and spent some time doing anything? And
Not as much as I would like. That is kind of like my plan this summer is to go spend a lot more time up in Huatla de Jimenez, Oaxaca, which is where Maria Sabina is from. I have a source there. The Inti Garcia Flores was my source for indigenous ceremonial use in my book. I have a whole chapter on it, and he's a professor up there that I'd love to. A bunch of friends of mine have like stayed at his house, and he's like really nice. And he actually started this. It's like an online museum archive of like Mazatec culture. So the Mazatec are the indigenous community that continue to use mushrooms ceremonially. And in this archive, they have like all these old photos of Maria Sabina, but also all this other cool healing ceremony stuff. They have like all sorts. The Mazatec have like a lot more than just mushroom ceremonies. It's like mushrooms are kind of revered as like one of the highest forms of ceremony, and you probably wouldn't like go straight to the mushrooms if you were sick in that community. Like there's all these other traditions that you would probably go through first. Like you can have your corn read by an oracle, and there's like other ceremonies. And so my experience, I didn't have time when I was writing the book to go explore too much. I really wanted to. I was on a really crazy tight deadline. But I worked at a retreat in Oaxaca just like 2 months ago or less. Um, that is run by a friend of mine. It's called Luz Eterna Retreats. And we had a Mazatec curandera come join us as one of like the medicine women as part of our circle. So I did get to learn a lot from her, who happened, of course, to be the aunt of my source for the book. I was like, whoa,
oh wow,
small world. Yeah. And she was really cool. And she not only like performed. So one of the 3 ceremonies at the retreat was her ceremony. And so we did a more traditional Mazatec velada, which is pretty different, I think, compared to how Westerners use mushrooms. Like you're really encouraged to sit up, keep your eyes open and like focus on the altar and stay focused and alert. And she like prays for you. And it's like kind of intense. And I look forward to going to Huautla and learning more and doing it in the more traditional style, which is like inside someone's house. We did it outside, and honestly, the curandera was kind of disappointed with some of her work. She just kind of felt like maybe it shouldn't have left the mountain. Like maybe those teachings were meant to stay in the mountains. We were down at the coast. It's very interesting how just the whole vibe of the mushrooms and their spirit and how it works, it can be on or off. It's kind of beyond my comprehension and explanation to explain like when a ceremony doesn't feel like ceremony. But yeah, just learning. I am learning a bit about the indigenous use. It's fascinating, the way the rituals and traditions they go through, like even before the ceremony, to like keep the mushroom spirit pure, is like a really big part. And they used to like only send children with a curandera to pick the mushrooms off the mountain because they had like pure spirit. But anyone who had like sexual intercourse, so like even anyone like above like a certain age, like then you're no longer pure. Like you shouldn't touch the mushroom because you will like infect it with your energy. And it's all really interesting. And there's so much wisdom there on just like how subtle and emotional and like kind of energy and vibe sort of sensitive mushrooms are, that I think Westerners could really learn from. And that's why I included a chapter in my book. I thought that, there's a lot there to dig into. I think a lot more than we even know. I think we have like this one story of Gordon Watson in the 50s going and doing a ceremony with Maria Sabina, and that kind of like sort of being like the end of this story. And I really feel like it's not even the beginning. It's like some weird little part of this huge story. So I'm really looking forward to going and spending more time up there and learning more. And I really hope that my travel plans this summer aren't thwarted by this virus, but hopefully things clear up. But the last thing I want to do is go to an indigenous community and like get everybody sick. So
Right. Yeah.
oh my
Right.
God.
Yeah.
They just, their medical care is not as strong for indigenous communities. Like, we hear about in America, there's not a lot of these test kits. Well, in Mexico, I mean, there's test kits, but I imagine that, certain communities are going to be the last to get them. And so we just really have to be looking out for each other this time. Yeah, but it's the indigenous mushroom use it's magical.
Perfect word. Yeah. 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 I mean, I really love and respect the indigenous cultures that practice their rituals and ceremonies and have their mythology and cosmology and their sort of space that they've carved out in their history and lineage, and the ancestors and the spirit and all these things that I think is really lost in America. I mean, our the founding of this country, the people that came over here fucking slaughtered the indigenous population, treated them like garbage. And, we lost a lot of that stuff. And, honestly, I mean, I'm a big believer in trying to bring that back as much as we possibly can. Where I stand on it is like, it's not, I don't want to get into these like debates of like, is it real or is it not real? Like, are there really spirits? Are there really animal spirit? Like all this stuff. And it's, to me, I'm a huge fan of Joseph Campbell and comparative mythology and stuff like that. And I just think that it's like whatever we kind of want to make it, like I think we're in a really interesting time right now where we can learn from all aspects of ritual use and practice and ceremony, and then also look at like what we're doing in the West and the kind of the wellness and the optimization and that stuff, and try and really put it into a way that it works for us. And I'm also just a fan of stories, like, and storytelling, and like, yeah, like I like the animistic worldview, of the Native American people, and that everything has a spirit and everything has a life to it. Like that just appeals to me. Maybe some people will say that that's not true, or they don't see things that way, or they want more of a scientific understanding. But the scientific story to me is the same story as the animistic story. It's just kind of more boring to me. That's that's how I feel about it. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Like, I think that I agree that it, like, what's real, like, who's ever, like, that's been the human question for all time, right? Like, is God real, or are the spirits real? Like, that's so one of the lessons I've gotten on one of my like powerful mushroom journeys in the last year is that why is the wrong question. So I feel like is this real is kind of like the wrong question. Like, how does it make you feel? I think that's a better question. And I think whatever helps you. So what I'm really into right now is like, I think that the people who make their own ceremonies are really cool. Like, I think that really helps. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to fly to Oaxaca and go work with a curandero. That may appeal to you. And if it does, like, that's maybe an option. Not right now, but in the future.
Yeah.
But like, I think that the people who are building altars at home, who are making their own ceremonies at home with their friends and their community, are like doing really good work. Like, I think that some people complain about that as like cultural appropriation, and I think that there's a line there, but I don't think these people are crossing it. I think that they are um like altar building, for instance. Like, there's a lot of like non-Latino mushroom people building altars in their home, and like I think that's okay. Like, even if you didn't grow up building an altar in your home as part of your family tradition, like if it speaks to you, if it makes you feel good to go pray there, or it helps to center you or to ground you during a journey or just in real life, like I think that it's a beautiful spiritual practice and it's for everybody. And I think, yeah, I'm really getting into ceremony. I was not a ceremony person. I was like a take mushrooms camping with my friends person. And I'm both now. I think they both have value, and I'm trying to incorporate just more ritual into my own mushroom use. Like, I don't have to do a big ceremony. I like going and joining communities on their ceremonies. Like in this retreat world, I am a little bit a part of. It's very ceremonial based, and I've been really learning through my teachers there and really appreciating it. And I didn't like see the value until pretty recently, how it's the ceremony that holds the space for you when you're in a really strong psychedelic journey. It's not really the individual people that are there. Like, they'll help, especially if something goes down, you need a bucket to throw up in or something. Like, they're there for you. But I think what can be missing when people do strong journey work uh, without context is the container that holds you, and you are like marking this event as significant and as something that you want to remember and learn from. And I think that helps you process it later. I think it helps you stay grounded when you're in it and accept all the experiences that come, no matter how like crazy or dark or blissful and great they are. Like, it's the ceremony that holds that space and allows you to go through that. And I'm really learning about that when I volunteered at a retreat. I really see that work in action for other people, that like other people that you are judging or not understanding, and then you see them go through this beautiful human experience, and you're like, God, I was such an idiot for judging anybody. Like, they're just so purely them as they throw up into this bucket right now. Like, or I don't know, as I hold your hand and walk you to the bathroom, like, you're just such a beautiful human. I don't know. I'm really enjoying, I'm very new in this world, but like the trip sitting, volunteer at a retreat world it's really beautiful. And I think you can really learn a lot there. And I'm really glad that I'm opening myself up to that world, because it can be hard. I can be really closed off and I can feel like unworthy. I'm not a therapist. Like, who am I to trip sit or something? But it's not really like I'm not there to solve anyone's problems or help them figure things out through like an analytical lens. Like I'm just there to hold their hand and just be there while they and the mushrooms figure it out. And it's this like crazy, beautiful learning experience for everyone involved. I can only do it a few times a year because it's like so intense and energy draining, but in this like beautiful, I'm like exhausted in this like beautiful way where like I don't have time to like stress out and worry. I'm just like so fully present and tired, and it's a beautiful thing if people get a chance to do it. I think one thing that people don't realize about the ayahuasca ceremony world is that you can go and volunteer at these retreats if you don't have the money to go and be a participant, and you still get to drink the medicine a few times. You have to work pretty hard and still fly yourself out there, but then you have your food and accommodation covered and you can just go be in it for a while. And that really appeals to me. I'm trying to do that sometime soon in the ayahuasca world to really learn about that more, because I'm more of a mushroom person for now, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And, I love the retreat, the place where I was, and the people there, and the community building. And, some of my favorite times were just sitting around the like dinner table or the lunch table or the breakfast table and just, laughing and connecting with people. And, you really have this space and this time that's just, this is what we're doing. We're drinking ayahuasca, we're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we're gathering around, and maybe some people are playing music and some people are playing chess or checkers, but there's no technology, there's no electricity. That's where I was. And it's just getting it back to basics. And and there's a singular kind of point of focus. Most people that were there, the place where I went to, the temple, is very adamant about it being a healing place, because there are other retreat centers that you could go and you can, zip line and, whatever, I don't know, do, lift weights and stuff. And, I picked that place because of their intention for healing and because of their, their safety and integrity. And so everybody was there with this one kind of single point of focus, which was to heal and to unravel the toxic stories and the trauma and the baggage, and, put it all out in this like spiritual laundromat and cleanse and clean and put the cycles on. And when that starts to emerge and that starts to come out, people get vulnerable and they get real, and it's unlike anything ever. And I wish that could come more, put that into our society more, where people are really kind of opening up and living in that way. And maybe it will happen. But you're right. Like I would look at like these. I think there's a common misconception too, a lot in the world, where you think people that are into psychedelics or whatever are just these like dreadlock people that like to listen to like, trance music and whatever, and there's people like that. But at the ayahuasca retreat center that I was at, I would continuously see, mothers, grandmothers, just people that were, what do I call them? I don't know, normies or whatever, just like normal, just regular folks, not drug people, not psychedelic people, just people who heard about this. And I would sit there in ceremony and I would watch, this like 70-year-old woman, who the day before was telling the group about why she's here and her daughters and her marriages and ex-husbands and the trauma and the past. And, I just really, and I would watch as she would approach the Shipibo, the ayahuasquero, pouring the medicine, giving it to her, and her taking it and taking a breath and about to drink and being like, my God, like the courage in this person is so inspiring that it's like being at war, and we're all in this group together, except we're not fighting an external enemy. We're not killing people. We're going internal. It's amazing. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And I'm also right there with you too on for people that don't have it so, that aren't like, that maybe are a little bit more healed or a little bit more further along in their process or whatever it is, or just kind of, I think Bob Jesse was the guy that said like psychedelics is also good for the betterment of the well, like the people that aren't suffering as much, like, yeah, take some mushrooms, and go camping, like have fun with your friends. Maybe if you're at a show, like do it responsibly, do it smart, do it with intention, but have fun. Like these can be enjoyable things too, right? So and those experiences can be healing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to make sure I got that in, that this can be fun too. And like, it's totally legit to do it for fun. And I think that that's how I learned that this can be healing at all, was when I was taking it for fun and I had all these insights and I felt deeply connected to my friends and myself for like the first time in my life. And it was so powerful and positive, and there's value in that. We can't take that away. Like, doing it spontaneously or in a party situation maybe is not the safest sometimes, but like give your setting a little consideration in your dose and everything. Get the safety basics right, and yeah, maybe go camping. Maybe rent a Airbnb with a big backyard that you can go put your hands in the grass, put your face in it. Like, it feels so good. Go talk to a tree. Like, they really miss you. They need you to talk to them.
Yeah.
So, like, I think, yeah. And like, there's so many legitimate uses. And I think that I wanted to say that before when we were talking about kind of this, how wellness is a legitimate use, but it's not the only use. And I think that fun, enjoying music on a new level, art, whatever it is, like, take a smaller dose than you would for a big personal journey at home. But like, yeah, you can still do that. And the connection you feel with other people is so important. And to yourself. I think we're so disconnected from ourselves. We live in like a state of disassociation. Like, even if we don't have PTSD and are like think we disassociate, like, I'm just realizing that like just the Western society is so just the way that we have to put so much like distance between who we really are, who we are at work, how we make money, how we take care of our families, how we take care of ourselves. It's like so compartmentalized. And I think that psychedelics can really show you that, like, no, it's all part of the same big, beautiful journey that we're all on together. Like, you're not like, yeah, maybe you're more stressed for money than your neighbor, but like, you're not that much different. Like, we all are struggling. Some of us, sure, more than others, but we're all struggling, and we all need to be reconnected. And yeah, I think just the way it shows you the world differently, yourself, your choices, it's a really important experience for everyone to have. And whether that's ayahuasca or mushrooms, you just have to be ready and open to it, and you have to want to have it. I'm not one of these people who are like, oh, we should go dose Donald Trump and save the world. Like, that's not probably gonna fix anything.
It probably wouldn't even change him. He would just be like, "Oh my god, I totally had the greatest experience." Like he would be like, I could take the biggest doses." His ego would just be inflated even more. Like, it's that's the other thing is like these are tools, and you have to use them with intention, and they're not necessarily going. Yeah, that I hear that too. Like, and I was even like that. Let's put LSD in the water supply, like that's not can't do that, and there's also that also brings up consent too, which is largely important.
Super, super important. Yeah, no, I mean, we were all like that, I think, when we first started getting into psychedelics again, or like whatever. Like, for me, it was again, it was like, I wrote this piece, it was public, and it was only like a year ago, and I'm like a little embarrassed about it. And it was, could psychedelics cure toxic masculinity? Like, I might still be on that train, but like, it's just not that easy. It's not like just give every man in America psychedelics and we'll have equal pay. Like, it's just not going to happen like that. Like, it is this beautiful thing where it can open you up to something kind of like bigger than you, and yet just you at the same time. Like, I think that I go a lot of my journeys can be like how I react to other people and interact with other people, and really reflecting on that. But it can be really tiring if you're the only person reflecting on all that, and no one else is, and you're like trying to be the best version of yourself all the time and make everyone so comfortable if no one else is meeting you halfway. Like, that's also not going to be healthy, and
Yeah.
it's complicated, but
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, you brought up, like how we do things in the West and in America, and this sort of, in this way. So you've been living in Mexico now for how long?
Over 5 years.
So yeah, like talk to me a little bit about like being out, because I remember being outside the country and then coming back. Even though I've only lived outside the country for maximum 6 months, but even that period of time, I remember coming back from Peru and being in like Miami International Airport and just being like, this is nuts. I mean, granted, also I was coming from drinking ayahuasca every week in the jungle. But it was very intense, and it's very crazed and neurotic, and that's how I felt. And I mean, I guess I've always kind of felt that way about America. So what's changed? What's shifted for you in your perception of America, or if we want to call it the West, whatever,
Oh, it's hard because it's been evolving so much over the past few years, and it keeps changing. But like reverse culture shock is so real. I get that really hard now. If we were in Denver right now and it was like my third day in America for like 4 months, I would have such a better answer for you, because I'd be like, oh man, it's just so weird how we do everything here. But it can be hard for me when I'm not there to like remember the differences and stuff. And I'm also kind of an outsider to Mexican culture. Like, I'm not Mexican, but I have been living here, and I have some really close friends who, are from here, are Mexican. And I think that there are some really interesting cultural differences. Like America is really disconnected, and we're very individualistic. It's the American dream, right? It's like, oh, like we're so like motivated and to just like always be like rising the social ladder. And I think that even in like other Western countries, that's like kind of an American attitude. Like my partner's from England, and he's like a little bit more, has a little bit less of that mentality. It's still very much an English culture thing, but just like a little bit more of like just being happy with what you have rather than always trying to get more. And I think that here in Mexico, like family is so important. Like, yeah, family is important in America, but it's like family's everything here, and it's really beautiful. And that's like what really keeps people together. And they say that like Guatemala is like the happiest place on the planet or something when you do these like indexes, even though it's like one of the poorest in Central America. But it's like, it's more about not valuing like all these physical things that we can have. Like if we have food, like, and shelter and clothes and water, like that's enough. And then we have family, and we have love, and we have parties every Sunday, and we have this close intergenerational bonds. Like those things are valued a lot higher, I think. But I mean, like I said, I'm sure there's plenty of American families that are really tight, and like that's not always the case. But I just know, like, for instance, like with young people, it's like when you're like 18 in America, it's like, I got to move out of my parents' house and start my own life, and I just need freedom. And here it's like really normal to keep living as a family into your 20s, into your 30s. It's not like a big stigmatized deal that you're like a 30-year-old that lives with their parents. It's like, fine, you help them. You all help each other. You're part of like a unit that's like everyone has a job to do to keep each other safe and fed. And I mean, that it exists everywhere, but it is just a little more of a core cultural thing here. And that like extends to medicine ceremonies. Like the indigenous way to take mushrooms is to do it as a whole family. You do it together. Like if your mom is sick and you're going for a healing ceremony, like mom takes the mushrooms, but the whole family goes. Dad takes the mushrooms, brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, their sisters. Everyone might come. And the curandera might bring some of her family. Like you're just, it's That's a big
Yeah.
difference for me. I mean, and I have a tight family, you know, we're close. I'm a first generation American on one side. So it's like there's a bit of a cultural difference there, but I don't know. It's, yeah,
Yeah.
this whole, it's really different here. It's beautiful. I love it. It's keeping me alive. Like I do struggle with a lot of depression, and this is part of my answer moving down here. Is, you know, keeps me motivated and happy and just like, yeah.
Yeah, it almost brought a tear to my eye when you were talking about the whole family healing together. I mean, because it is, you know, there's a large, you know, the divorce rates are so high, and the, you know, yeah, the kids want to get out of the house, and it's, you know, mom against dad, and dad against mom, and dad against the kids, and the kids against mom, and it's like, you know, individualistic, and get on the rat race wheel and earn a living and make something of yourself and achieve, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of countries where you see it's like, you know, the whole family and the extended family, and they live together, and maybe, you know, they work together, and they have a little family business, and they're happy because they have each other, and they have their basic needs met. And, you know, that's I think that is an important lesson for me that the psychedelic experience kind of like woke me up to, because, you know, prior to that I was kind of like a broy douche guy. And like, you know, I wasn't really, I was just like, you know, I was just, I want to make a lot of money. Like, I don't care. I want to, you know, I want to be famous or whatever. And, you know, but now I just, you know, or since I've been really on my spiritual healing journey has been unfolding, and it's really comes down to these really simple, basic things, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. And the healing together, it's a beautiful thing. Oh my God. I could only imagine how many people that I know could benefit, myself included, from the whole family coming together and healing together. My God. Um, yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. And that's really what I'm interested in the most, is like, how can we make a more beautiful world? Like, I want a more beautiful world. And I believe that psychedelics can play a part in that, and, you know, ceremonial and, you know, all the different ways. Um, yeah, there's something else that I wanted to say about that. Oh, right. What I was going to say was, sometimes I feel like maybe I should move out of the country. You know, like sometimes I feel like the pressure really to conform, to produce. I mean, I'm a podcaster. Like, I'm not raking it in. You know, it's not like it's not bad. It's okay. You know, I do a couple other things too on the side, but it is tough to live in the pressure. I mean, I used to live in New York City. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City, and I moved to the city after college, and I lived there for 8 years. Yeah. And it just became, you know, too much. It was, you know, now I'm in Denver, but even here, I mean, yeah, I look at like, well, maybe I'll move to Chiang Mai, or maybe I'll move to Cusco, or, you know, something like that. And, you know, Costa Rica, I spent some time there, is a beautiful country as well. So I think about that because the pressure to really produce and to conform to the kind of machine like, you know, way of being a productive citizen is kind of tough.
I mean, it's tough to break even when you leave. I still do it to myself. Like, I don't even fully have to. Like, I do have to make money and everything, but it's a lot less than if I lived in New York like I used to. But, you know, it's the culture that I still live in, like media culture specifically. Like, I work for American media outlets, and they're just like, wait, you don't work 18 hours a day? You don't work on Sundays? Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm just like, girl, I sign off at 6 o'clock. If you're emailing me after, like, I'm not checking. I'm spending time with my loved ones. I'm making dinner. I'm just trying to, like, be a human. But media is hard. Media, there's no room for being human in media. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
you're right.
but if you can, like, yeah, you really have to. I try. Like, I'm actually, so like in my mind it was like, after the book tour I'm gonna like take a lot of time and just like read more and take more walks, and now that I'm stuck at home, I guess this is my gift from the universe. Like, I have that time to just slow down, and I'm really trying to use it, take advantage of it, and slow down and breathe and meditate and all these things that I'm like, oh, there's no time. I have a deadline. Like, blah. And so, but yeah, even if you leave, like, it can be hard to break out of that. I'm trying slowly, and everyone's making it really hard. So stop giving me commissions. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
And let me just sleep all day. No, that's not what I'm saying. But
No, I get what you're saying. What you're saying is like you want to do your thing. You're passionate about it, but you also want to be a human being that you. I mean, because otherwise, what's the point of being alive if we stress ourselves out so to the point of exhaustion, where we're working and we're anxious and we're going crazy and we're judging and we're, flipping out. It's like that's not the kind of life. Quality of life is the most important thing.
I know it's hard to remember. Yeah. It's like, and yeah, money. I mean, money makes it so hard to slow down, right? Because most of us can't. We have to keep making money, and it's all about finding a balance. I keep saying this, so I'm like just half believing it, but it really is. I swear.
Keep saying it. Yeah, keep saying it.
I will believe it eventually.
Yeah.
But you should. I think every American should, even though like it's not doable for everyone. But if you can get out of the US for a little while, I think it'll be good for everyone. I know it's like not possible for everybody, but if you work remotely, you should do it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's in the cards of my future for sure. I mean, shit, maybe right now. I don't know. I'll take my chances. There's like I think it's like $65 right now to fly to Hawaii or something, but I don't know. I don't want to, I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen? I heard that like the whole country is going to be locked down on quarantine, like pretty soon. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, what's going to unfold. All I know is I'm going to start scheduling lots of podcasts with people because what else, and finding time to meditate. But Michelle, this has been great. I feel like I really got to know you well, and this has been just a great conversation. I really enjoyed it so much. Is there anything else that you want to kind of communicate to the world? To the 6,000 people that listen to this show.
Hey, 6,000's a lot. No, just thank you so much for having me. This has been super fun. I just hope everyone just stays sane and safe, and keep reading about psychedelics.
Awesome. Yeah, and hopefully you'll be able to make it to Denver, and we'll get to hang out in person and get to explore all the cool psychedelic culture here.
That's the plan. I can't wait. As soon as everything gets back to normal, I'm definitely going to reschedule and like add more events and go on a little mushroom book tour all over the US. So everyone stay tuned in and just, stay home for now.
Yeah. And where can people go to find you, to follow you, to keep up with your writing, to get your book? Where are good places to go?
Yeah, I try to keep my website updated. It's michellejanikian.com. I'm also on Instagram at michellejanikian. Michelle.janikian, and Twitter at Mushian. And mostly Instagram I try to keep updated. So you can find all my work and stuff on there.
Cool. And people can buy the book off your website?
There's links to it on the website, but it's on all the it's on Amazon, Powell's, Barnes and Noble. You can order it at your local bookstore through IndieBound. It's on all the things.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll make sure to put those links in the show notes so people can get it. I highly recommend it. It's great. I mean, everybody should have it on their bookshelf. If you're listening to this show, you should have it on your bookshelf. And it's a great book to hand to people who are curious and want to start exploring more about psilocybin mushrooms. Great job. Really appreciated, reading it. And I loved how honest you were too in it. It was like it was so great to read that first, the opening and being like, oh yeah, I was there. I did that. And she's talking about it. And now, so it's so great. So thank you so much. Yeah.
So good to hear. No, thank you. If you're relating to it, let me know. I love hearing it from readers. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I hope you, get through this current time and crisis. Wishing you all the best, strength, courage, bravery, calmness, peace, all the good things. You too. And to everyone out there, thank you so much. All right. Yeah. Stay in touch. I'll talk to you soon. Cool. Bye. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you did, go and leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a 5-star rating and a review if you feel like writing something. That would be great. It helps the show a lot, helps us bump us up in the Apple algorithm, get the podcast exposed to more people. So if you like the show, go ahead and do that. If you want to go a step further, go to patreon.com/Mike Brank. You can donate, become a patron, be a part of the Mycadelic Inner Sanctum WhatsApp chat group of people chatting and connecting all around the world. We're finding the others, bringing them together, creating community. One of my favorite things to offer. I also release bonus episodes. Sometimes I do episodes that are kind of raw and kind of beta test them for the producers of the show, which are my patrons, the people who support the show. Big shout out to everybody that's a patron. Thank you for your love and support. If you want to do a one-time donation, go to my website, mikebrank.com. Go to PayPal and do a one-time donation if you feel that. And I really like the method of donation. It's a gifting mentality, and reading Charles Eisenstein's books recently and his talks have really kind of made me embrace the spirit of the gift, of giving and gifting. And what better time than this holiday season to be generous and to give. And, if you like the show, just tell people about it, spread it, share it. Also, contact me. Go to my email on my website, the contact page, mikebrank.com. Reach me on Instagram, Mycadelic_podcast. Hit me up on Facebook. Send me your messages. Send me your thoughts. Send me guest suggestions, ideas. Share your story with me. Reach out. Give me feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? And I love to hear from people. I always respond. So you can go ahead and do that. If you're interested in CBD, we have Hemp Bombs as a sponsor. You can go to hempbombs.com, get all kinds of CBD stuff. And I used to take their gummies. I think I'm going to start taking them again. I ran out, so I got to get some more. But they're really good. And check it out. If you're interested in CBD, you want to give it a try, put in the code Mike15 at checkout and get 15% off all of your CBD wants, desires, needs, and so forth. Big shout out to Danny Barnett and Galaxia for the music, the intro and the outro. And of course, thanks to Muse, who I mash up their song and put the Terrence McKenna clips and everything in without their permission, but somehow I'm still able to do it. So thanks, because I love that. And what else? I don't know. Thank you so much to everybody for your love and support, for listening. And yeah, I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, really can't express how grateful I am that out of all the podcasts out there that you choose this one to listen to. And like I said, let's really make this a collaborative effort. If there's something that you hear, that you notice, something going on with the show that you're like, hey, you used to do this or you do that, or I'd like to see this, or hey, did you ever think about that? Shoot me a message. I'm open. I communicate. I message back. I like this to be a collaborative effort. I want more community involved in this. So anyway, thanks. And till next time, peace.